Are you interested in a successful career in politics or working for the government? So do you want to excel as a civil servant or as a politician? Look no further. Today's episode, we have a special guest, the Deputy Mayor of Newmarket, Tom Bay. Tom is also a regional councillor for the York region. Tom will review the secrets to breaking into nonprofit organizations and politics, whether you are aiming to make a difference or climbing the political ladder. Tom's insight will guide you on this journey. Don't miss out on this exclusive opportunity to learn from an experienced leader in the field. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more career secrets. Welcome, Tom.
Hi, Edmund. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Thanks again. Could you talk about your career journey?
Thank you, Evan. Well, my background is actually in nonprofit management at the executive level. I've been the executive director of a very large, significant organization in Regent Park for a homeless shelter. I've been the executive director for Habitat for Humanity York region. I was also a ward councillor in Newmarket for a number of terms. And then about 6 years ago, I was elected to Newmarket Deputy Mayor and York Regional Council.
Excellent. What inspired you to get into politics?
My background has always been in community development, a great concern about how communities function, why are some communities successful, some are struggling or less successful, and also a real focus on the quality of life of people living in the communities. So it was a very complementary, almost a natural transition to move into politics at the municipal level, where you have that hands-on work having a real impact on the quality of life of people in the community. For a number of years, I worked in the nonprofit sector, as I mentioned, in management and as a family Newmarket councillor.
How many years have you served as a councillor and deputy mayor?
I was first elected to Newmarket Council in 2000. And then 6 years ago, I was elected Newmarket Deputy Mayor, Regional Councillor.
Wow. Do you think it's important to start as a councillor before someone seeks office as a deputy mayor or mayor?
It usually helps. It helps you get to know your town, your community, develop relationships with other members of the council, develop relationships with community leaders, business leaders, and you get that practice to kind of prove yourself to the town at large, the community at large, and your colleagues that you're ready and fit for a larger position.
Great, thank you. Can you share some of your key milestones in your political?
I'll start as a ward councillor. Is how we develop parks and playground equipment. I was able to bring in the first where we had 2 separate playground pads, one for older kids and one for younger kids, because they do play differently. And if we only have one playground pad, the older kids tend to dominate. I also brought in the first splash pad for Newmarket for a great community in my ward called Copper Hills. Great homes, and a splash pad in the summer was perfect. And a splash pad is great for kids too, but it's also great for parents, because if you think about it, making connections in your community, you're usually making them through your kids, be it through sports or artistic. And this was a place that the whole community came together and where parents basically made connections with each other. So it was a great recreational opportunity, but it was also a community building opportunity. Another milestone was creating what we call the multi-purpose play area. So in the wintertime, it's a skating rink. In the summertime, it's a basketball court. And the key to this, for the skating rink, it was up to community volunteers to come out and flood it and shovel it and create it, etc. So once again, it gets the community quite involved in their own recreational amenities, and they really feel an ownership of it, both the parents, dads and kids out there doing that. So those would be just a few milestones as a ward councillor. In the larger position as deputy mayor and regional councillor, I had the opportunity, for example, to sit on the board of the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority, a very important organization for protecting property and protecting our environment. So, for example, one of the things that we're doing right now is with climate change, we know we're going to have longer and wetter springs, so a lot more water. We're going to also have drier summers. That means we're going to have a lot of flooding. So a lot of homes that were not in floodplain before, a lot of properties, if we don't do anything, they will be in floodplain. because things are changing. So what we're doing now is we have redrawn the floodplain maps to better predict where all this water is going to go. And we're redirecting a lot of that water to drying up some smaller creeks that can't handle more, directing them larger, creating ponds. Also, we can have a bit of a retention. We're taking other ponds and actually getting rid of them. We had one in Newmore right beside Yonge Street, that retention not be able to handle additional water coming in. So we put in pipes to drain it. Otherwise, we'll end up in ways that Don Valley is after a big storm, totally flooded. So those are just a few examples of some of the accomplishments of the work that I'm doing and I'm quite proud of.
Excellent. How does the political system in Newmarket differ from other municipalities in Ontario?
Well, all municipalities are governed by the municipal provincial legislation. Some municipalities you elect council at large, so the whole town votes, and the top 5 or 7 or whatever number, they become the councillors. And some have a ward system. I started election at large, so I ran for the whole town, and I had to be amongst the top 7 vote getters to be on council. And then we transitioned into a ward system, so I had to be elected as Ward 1. But if you look at the functioning and the rules of council, that's really governed by the municipal act, the province. So you'll find that they're all pretty similar.
Excellent. What does a typical day look like for you as a deputy mayor and regional councillor?
Thank you. I start off my day by looking at my email. A number of emails come in late at night or very early in the morning. And I try to organize my day relative to all of that. What do I need to respond to immediately? What do I need to do? A little bit of research, get a bit of assistance from staff to get a bit of information before I respond. Which ones do I actually defer and send off to respond? After that, I do have a number of meetings. It's very interesting. As a municipal councillor, you have 2 council meetings a week and 2 committee hall meetings a week. That's a pretty easy job. The amount of work that goes into preparation for those meetings, sometimes it's months by the time we get a report. And I've been working on issues with staff, with community members for a real extended period of time before anything's shaped into a report that comes to council. So a lot of my time is taken up with meeting with staff, community members, etc.
Would a councillor's job be quite different?
The short answer to that is yes, because I'm the deputy mayor for Newmarket, so I'm involved in a lot of the broader Newmarket issues that a ward councillor may not. A ward councillor quite often involved in their local community issues that I'm really not involved in unless they reach out and they need a bit of assistance on it. In addition to that, I'm a York Regional councillor, and I sit on about 10 committees for York Region. We have our meetings there. What we do is very different. You can kind of describe it as we prepare the infrastructure so municipalities can grow.
How do you balance your responsibilities between the town of Newmarket and York Regional Council?
They're complementary, so they're not really competitive. We might have developments happening in Newmarket, but those developments can't happen until York Region builds an infrastructure that can accommodate those developments. Infrastructure meaning roads, sewers, the clean water coming into your home, the wastewater leaving your home. Other parts of infrastructure also include public transportation, public health, York Regional Police, etc. So as our population grows, those areas need to grow to adapt to a growing population.
Would you explain the process of how the town gets things done from proposal to implementation?
Some things are simple and some things take a lot of time. And by simple, I mean they usually don't have a budget or to have a significant budget impact. Those type of things we can work on fairly quickly. If something is, an issue is going to have a budget impact, so some initiative that we want to start off, etc., that actually then, quite frankly, becomes a bylaw because our budget is actually a bylaw. So those things will take a longer period of time to do. If we didn't include it in this year's budget, we might have to say, well, it won't happen until 2026 because there's budget impact. And as bylaw, by legislation, we have to adhere to the budget that we've passed. So that's why some things take a long time. And it's usually because it has significant budget impact. And other things we can act quickly. Somebody wants a no U-turn sign and we can quickly get the staff to look at it, see if it's warranted and do it.
You've been in nonprofit. You've worked with obviously a lot of the staff at the municipalities, and then you are working as a politician right now. How do I get into any of these different positions?
Okay, we'll talk about nonprofit first, if you don't mind. Most of my work as a nonprofit, by the way, has been in Toronto. People are motivated to work in the nonprofit sector for a number of different reasons. It's usually a passion. It could be their experiences in life have led them to that, or perhaps in university, they are really interested in something. So whatever your path is to the nonprofit world, welcome to that. A bit of caution for you I will give is that the nonprofit world, for the most part, doesn't pay very well. And certainly on the frontline areas, it doesn't really pay very well. Main reason for that being is that our clients, for the most part, are poor. We don't have rich clients. If you want to be in some sort of direct service, I would strongly advise you to go into an industry, an area that has wealthy clients that could pay you a lot. So you have to go into that with your eyes open a bit. That's why a lot of people sometimes be in the nonprofits in their 20s and then in their 30s move over to the private sector, for example, that they've done this, but they have other goals in life also. And some of those goals would include getting married, having kids, buying a house. So it's one of the reasons why you see so many young people in the nonprofit sector too. It's absolutely rewarding. It is a great career to get into. I would still recommend it to everyone, but I'm just giving out those very practical cautions. If you're looking at a career in politics, there's a few things you should do. And the very first thing you should do, because we do have 3 levels: municipal, federal, provincial, and they all kind of operate differently. But the very first thing, regardless of which level that you're interested in, is volunteer in a campaign. Learn how it's done. It's not just a matter of, I've got some great ideas and hope people will recognize what a great person I am and how much I care and they'll vote for me. There's actually a lot of mechanics involved in politics to get yourself into that position. So I would always recommend someone volunteer first, ask questions, observe, look at how campaigns are run. The second one, and this is very, very important, is ask yourself, why do you want to do it? Why do you want a career in politics? Because that's a question that you're going to have to provide an answer to when you're out campaigning and talking to the public. Why do I want to do this? So, and that becomes very personal. For me, it was a bit easier, a bit of a natural transition that I was always involved for years in community development, quality of life issues, et cetera. Very interested. Why are some communities successful? Why are some other communities not successful? So it was a bit of an easier transition for me, certainly for the municipal levels, because you're still working on those set of issues. It would be a bit different if I had chosen provincial or federal politics. You're less hands-on on those set of issues at those 2 levels of government.
How can someone become a civil servant in a municipality?
Apply. And it's a great time to apply to work for government, because government, we're primarily a service sector industry. And as population grows, our departments, our government grows because we are providing services and to more people. So this is a great time to go in there. There's a lot of retirements happening at the same time when the industry is growing. So entry level, if you have the skills that we're looking for, welcome aboard. Please apply. And also a great plus working for, I'm going to say the civil servants here, the entry level actually pays quite well, pays entry level, and the typical worker out there makes more money than in the private sector for a similar type of job. That's usually because there are powerful unions involved. And even those municipalities that are not unionized, they have a practice of following whatever happens to the unionized environment. So the salaries are great. And they're pretty good until you move into management. But once you get beyond management, it flips. That the salaries in government are less than the private sector. The private sector is much, much higher. So you do have people sometimes moving from the civil service, government sector, to the private sector. Often that move becomes difficult, though, for very practical reasons. You may have been with the municipality, the province, whatever, working for the government for 20 years. You've got a lot invested there. You've got 20 years of pension, and you might be able to take your pension in 10 or 15 years to move. So people will have to make personal decisions.
Now, let's get back to Tom. What are some of the biggest challenges you have faced in your ropes, different careers?
Thank you, Ben. It's a great question. And it's like in any other job, challenges that you are really the people you're working with. So even think of engineer, challenge is not the math. You can do that. Any challenges you've had and any successes that you've had all have to do with the people around you. Some are easier to work with than others, or more supportive than others. The challenges that you have, like in any job, is with the people. I've been very fortunate that on all my years, over 20 years on council, we've only had one council that I'll refer to as a challenge. Unfortunately, that person was only on for one term. So the rest of the time, I've been fortunate to deal with a fairly professional, smart council, people that genuinely like and respect each other. That doesn't mean we always agree. We can disagree, but it's policies, always on issues or how to deliver a service. Each other, the disagreements really haven't become personal or anything like that.
Let's talk about the constituent. How do you handle hostile posts or criticism on social media?
Thank you. That's a great question. We live in the age of social media. There used to be a day when people would write letters to me about an issue, a concern, asking for help, or even leaving a voicemail or an email. Now, a lot of that's just done on social media, a very public place. Sometimes people would even complain that they've said something on Facebook somewhere, and Tom Vague, it's been 3 hours and he hasn't responded. Everything is very different right now. You mentioned like complaints or criticisms. If it's someone's opinion, I really don't comment on it. Everybody can have their opinion. If they're saying things that are a matter of fact and the facts are just wrong, I don't comment publicly on it. What I do is I send a personal message to that person, basically saying, I see you're interested in this subject, but some of your information is just not correct. Would you like me to set up a meeting between yourself, myself, and one of our staff or one of our in that department, and we can answer all your questions? And out of all the times I've done that, which is dozens of times, where I've offered to have that meeting, not a single time has the person ever taken me up on the offer for a meeting. But they also stopped commenting. They might comment on something else, but they weren't looking for factual information. They just wanted to say something. So again, if it's just an opinion, I leave it be. Everybody can have an opinion. If the comment is factual and incorrect, I'm not out there to embarrass anyone. So that's why I would always do it as a private message and offer to set up a meeting. I don't want to get an online debate back and forth with someone.
That's a fabulous strategy. How do you ensure the voices of all residents are heard and considered in decision making?
There's a few ways we do that. We do surveys, both in the regional and the municipal level, to kind of take the pulse of the community, how they're feeling, everything about taxes, about community amenities, and anything at all. And what do they think are emerging concerns? So we do get some information that way. I make a point of going out to as many community events as I can, to go out and meet the community leaders, to go out to meet people who are involved in different events, different activities, different charities, whatever, different businesses, and speak to them directly and ask open questions. And sometimes if they have a concern or a question or a criticism, I listen. And quite often my response is, well, if you were me, what would you do? And they can actually give me good suggestions sometimes. Or sometimes I say, no, it's just venting. I don't think there's anything we can do about this. The key is to be out there in the community, meeting face to face, making yourself available, attending community events, larger, small, and listening to people.
Excellent. What are some of the most rewarding aspects of your jobs?
The people. I mentioned before, the challenge with any job is usually the people, not the job itself. And the rewarding here is really the people. I get to meet so many different people all over the spectrum, from business leaders, community leaders, faith leaders, just a huge wide spectrum. And I enjoy our interactions. I enjoy our conversations. I really enjoy when I've had some success, as I mentioned, building a splash pad or something like that, some sort of community amenity, or if somebody had a problem with our finance department on some issue, I get real pleasure in resolving that, etc. So it always really comes down to the people, and that really is the pleasures of the job. I can't think of any other job, except maybe working as an airline steward, where you get to meet such a wide variety of people and have an opportunity to spend a little bit time with them and develop genuine friendships just through these connections.
How do you stay motivated and passionate about your work?
Work is always changing. It's evolving. We do have some routine meetings where it's not terribly exciting, but it's always changing. We have new projects going. The needs of the people change. The way people function in the community change. One big change we've seen, for example, is I mentioned before, playgrounds. Playgrounds are not nearly as much used now. Everybody's amusing themselves with social media. Playgrounds used to be the area where parents met. Now we're amenity to encourage people to leave their home, come out, do things with their neighbors. I think what you're going to see in Newmarket over the next few years is more and more, and I'm just calling them community barbecues because this is easy, shorthand title. You're going to be seeing more outdoor, small neighborhood events, huge, larger like concerts, things like that, but smaller neighborhood events to draw people out of their home and start interacting again with their neighbors the way we used to.
Now, the last couple of questions. Can you share any advice for young people in pursuing a career in politics?
There's a couple of things I would suggest. The first thing is go volunteer on a campaign to learn how it's done and ask questions, observe, learn how it's done. Also, I would ask a young person, why do you want to get in politics? What actually can you contribute? You may want to be in there, but what's in it for me? As a community, because as a young person, you haven't lived a full life yet. I hate to say it, but until you're out there working, you start having a family, you're paying your property taxes. I'm talking municipal now, navigating the world and learning a lot by navigating worlds in your own world. You really don't know enough. So please don't take that as a criticism. We've all gone through that stage in our life, but certainly get involved. There are a lot of committees, both municipal, I'm talking about Newmarket now, and committees that you can get involved in and volunteer to the library board. Doesn't even have to be with a government type committee. There are so many community groups out there. Volunteer with your local literacy council, volunteer with whatever your passion may be. Learn about that role of governance, learn about direct delivery, learn a little bit more about your community, find a mentor. So those are the type of things I would suggest to young people.
Excellent. Let's talk a little bit of becoming a civil servant. You mentioned about applying. Is there a site for all the Ontario municipalities, or is there just the one site for?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. Especially one site for each. Look at where you want to go. Look at which municipalities are growing. Certainly the GTA, all municipalities are growing. Some are growing faster than others. For example, the town of Newmarket, we're almost all built out. So we grow at about 1% a year. The municipality immediately north of us, East Gwillimbury, they're growing at between 6 and 7% a year. So they're hiring a lot more than we are, because hiring really is related to the growth of the municipality. So just do a quick little Google search. You can find that out. All that information is available. Look at municipalities that are growing, and those are the places you should be applying. For the website for each municipality, they usually have a link there, something that says work with us, careers, something like that. Always take a look at that. If you're a young person and you want to work for a municipality for the summertime, you really need to apply in December, because we're doing the interviews in January and February, and then the training and hiring for this. People contact me in April and say, I want to work for your municipality for the summer in your Parks and Recs department. And I said, well, we've already finished our hiring. Please take a look at those in December. If you're looking for seasonal, if you're a student, you're only available in the summer. And you're even able to, many of these, and you could do it for the town of Newmarket, is you could have a search word alert. So if you're a planner, anytime a planning job comes up, you can get a notification for that.
I think I know the answer to this question. Do I need to be a resident of that town to apply for a job?
No, you don't need to be a resident.
But I have to be permanent residents, correct?
Yes. Now, keep in mind, sometimes it depends on what type of job. Like if you're applying for York Region Police, they might have different requirements than applying to be a lifeguard in Newmarket. So I don't want to give too much of a blanket answer for that, but you can certainly contact the HR department, any municipality. Just phone them or email them. Tell them if you're worried about your status in Canada, say, this is my status in Canada. Am I eligible? And I'll be applying for this job X. Am I eligible for that job? They'll tell you a simple yes or no.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tom. This has been so helpful. This is Professor Edmund. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Thank you, Edmund. Great.
Thank you, Tom.